The lamp is very low now. You had meant to trim the wick an hour ago, maybe two, but your hands were occupied, and the thought passed. The flame leans to one side, throwing amber light across the manuscript paper in a pool that does not quite reach the edges of the page. Outside that circle, the room falls into gradients of shadow. Brown first, then charcoal, then something close to black in the far corner, where the cello case leans against the wall. You cannot see it now, but you know it is there. The light holds only what matters. The staff lines you have drawn in pencil, the notes clustering like birds on a wire, the corrections, the scratched out measures, the margin, where you have written a tempo marking so emphatically the paper tore slightly under the nib. Your right hand rests on the edge of the piano, fingertips touching the wood. The grain runs horizontal here, smooth from years of use, and there is a spot near the corner where the varnish has worn away entirely, leaving raw wood the colour of honey. You do not remember when that happened. The manuscript is open to the third page of the first movement. You have been working on this passage for most of the night, a place where the left hand must reach intervals that feel, even in the imagining, like a body stretching past its limits. The ink is still wet on the last measure. You can see the sheen of it catching the lamplight, a faint gloss over the black. There are splatters on the edge of the page where you dip the pen too deeply, small constellations. The shadows of your hands move across the paper when you shift your weight. Large and indistinct, fingers blurred into shapes that could be wings or branches. The rest of the apartment is invisible now. You know there are books stacked on the chair behind you, plates on the table near the window, a coat thrown over the back of something, but none of that exists in this moment. Only the lamp, the page, the keys under your left hand, cool and smooth as river stones. The air smells of tallow and old coffee, and faintly of ink. The room is so still that the lamplight seems to hum, though you know that is only a memory of what light used to sound like. You lean closer. The notes wait, patient, unfinished. You lean forward, the movement slow, deliberate, your spine curving until your face is close enough to the piano that you can smell the wood, old varnish and dust and something faintly resinous that has lived in the grain for decades. Your left hand stays where it is, fingers resting on the keys, and your right hand reaches for the pencil lying on the manuscript. It is an ordinary thing, hexagonal, the wood pale and soft, the graphite tip blunt from hours of writing. You lift it and bring it to your mouth. The taste is familiar, wood and lacquer, and the faint bitterness of the graphite that has transferred to the surface from your fingers. You bite down gently, holding it between your back teeth, then lean farther forward until the other end of the pencil touches the soundboard, just behind the strings near the bass register where the wood is thickest. The pencil makes contact, and you feel it immediately. A slight resistance, the solid fact of the instrument travelling up through the wood, through your jaw, into the bones of your skull. You adjust the angle slightly, pressing just enough that the pencil holds steady. Your jaw aches faintly. You have done this so many times tonight that there is a soreness in the hinge of your mandible, a dull pressure that will stay with you into the morning. But you need this. You need to know the piano is still there, still real, still capable of the vibrations you can no longer hear. Your left hand shifts. The third finger finds E flat in the bass, the thumb stretches up to B flat, the fifth finger reaches down to the low B flat, an octave below. The interval is enormous. Your hand spreads so wide, the webbing between thumb and finger pulls taut. You press down. All three keys descend together, smooth and weighted, and the hammers inside strike the strings in unison. And there it is. The vibration arrives through the pencil, through your teeth, through the bone. A low hum, not quite a sound, more like a pressure, a thickening of the air inside your head. It resonates in your sinuses, behind your eyes, in the cavity of your skull, where your ears once brought the world to you. The chord is there. You feel it, not as music, not as melody or harmony in the way you once understood those words, but as a physical fact, a proof that the keys you pressed produced something real. You hold it. The vibration fades slowly, the strings still moving inside the case, the sound decaying into silence. You cannot measure except by the gradual stilling of the hum in your jaw. The pencil is slick with saliva now. You do not move. Your hand stays on the keys, the chord shape still held. The lamplight reflects faintly off the black keys, little amber curves. Your breathing is shallow. You feel your heartbeat in your fingertips, where they press against the ivory. The vibration is gone now. The chord has ended, but you felt it. You know it was there. Your right hand lifts from where it has been resting on the edge of the manuscript. The fingers uncurl slowly, stiff from holding the pen, the joints reluctant. You move it through the air, above the keyboard, not yet touching, just positioning. Somewhere in the middle register, where the instrument's voice is clearest, where the overtones bloom without the muddiness of the bass or the brittle clarity of the treble. Your wrist rotates slightly, the hand turning palm down, and you feel the small bones shift inside the joint, the radius sliding against the ulna. There is an ache there, dull and persistent, the kind that comes from hours of this, writing, playing, writing again. But the ache is distant, easy to ignore, your fingers spread. The thumb reaches down towards C, the second finger stretches up to E, the fifth finger extends to G above. The shape is familiar, simple, a C major triad you have played 10,000 times since childhood, but it is not quite right. Your hand hovers, adjusting. The second finger shifts a half step down to E flat. The interval darkens, the major third collapsing into minor, still not right. You feel it in the tension across your palm, the way the muscles between the thumb and first finger pull taut when the shape is wrong, when the geometry does not match the sound living in your mind. Your fourth finger rises, hovers over F sharp. The hand spreads wider now, the stretch pulling at the webbing, the tendons standing out beneath the skin. Your palm arches, the knuckles lifting so the fingertips can descend at the correct angle. The shape is there now. C in the thumb, E flat in the second finger, F sharp in the third, B flat in the fifth, a diminished seventh, unstable, demanding resolution. Your hand knows this before your conscious mind names it. The fingers simply find their places, muscle memory older than thought. You press down. The keys descend smoothly, the ivory cool and slightly slick under your fingertips. The hammers strike inside the case, the strings vibrate, and the chord exists in the room as sound you will never hear, but your body knows. The tension in your wrist changes the moment the keys reach their lowest point, a subtle release, a confirmation. You feel the chord in the resistance of the keys themselves, the way they push back against your fingers with the exact pressure that tells you the hammers have struck true. Your palm holds the arch, the shape perfect, every finger exactly where it needs to be. This is the chord, the one you have been hearing in your mind for days, playing fragments of it, circling around it, never quite landing. And now it is here, under your hand, solid and real. You hold it. The keys stay down, your fingers pressing just enough to keep them there. The vibration must be fading now, the strings slowing, the sound dying into the silence of the room, but the shape remains. You memorize it through your hand, through the angle of your wrist, through the stretch across your palm. Your left hand reaches for the pen without your fingers leaving the keys. The pen is where you left it, lying across the manuscript, the nib resting in a small blot of ink that has seeped into the paper. You lift it carefully. The nib is wet, black, ready. You bring it to the staff, to the measure you have been working on for the past hour. Your right hand stays on the keys, holding the shape, reminding you. The nib touches paper, and you draw the first note, a quick vertical line, a filled oval, C, then E flat above it, then F sharp, then B flat at the top. The chord appears on the page in black ink, the notes stacked in a column, their stems aligned. You write quickly, your hand moving with a certainty that comes only when you know beyond doubt that this is correct. The ink glistens wetly for a moment before it begins to dry. Your right hand lifts from the keys. The shape dissolves, the fingers relaxing, curling inward. The chord is gone from the instrument, but it lives now on the manuscript, fixed, permanent. You exhale slowly. The lamp flickers slightly, the flame bending in a draught you cannot feel. Outside, the night continues. Snow falling or not falling, the city sleeping or waking. You do not know, and it does not matter. The chord is written, the question is answered. You reach for the next measure. Your eyes shift to the left, away from the manuscript, toward the stack of notebooks piled beside the lamp. Small volumes bound in plain cloth, some brown, some grey, the edges worn soft from handling. They sit at angles to each other, not neatly aligned, accumulating. The topmost book lies open, its pages splayed. You can see the handwriting there, not your own. Neat, careful script in dark ink, the letters upright and evenly spaced. A question from someone. You cannot remember who. The words are precise, formal, the hand of someone educated, someone who writes with attention to appearance. Below it, your own response, scrawled diagonally across the lower half of the page. The letters, large and uneven, pressed hard into the paper, the ink thicker in some strokes than others. You write quickly in these books, without care for neatness, your hand moving faster than patience allows. The pen often catches, leaves blots, trails off. You look at the sentence you wrote, something about a publisher, a delay, some practical matter you have already forgotten. The page beside it is blank, waiting. The one after that too. Pages and pages of emptiness in the lower half of the book, because you are the only one who writes there now, and you write only when prompted. Your gaze drifts to the notebook beneath, half buried in the stack. Its cover is darker, the cloth stained near the spine. You remember that one, older, from months ago, perhaps longer. You do not pull it free, but you can see a corner of a page, the edge visible where the book does not quite close, different handwriting there, rounder, more hurried, the letters crowding together as if the writer could not pause between words. A different visitor, a different day. The lamp's light catches the pale edge of the paper, turns it gold. You blink, your eyes dry from staring. The conversation books are how they speak to you now, have been for years. They arrive with questions already written, sometimes filling a whole page before you have even greeted them. They watch your face while you read, waiting to see if you understand. Then you take the pen and answer below, or on the facing page, or sometimes in the margins if there is no room. And they read your reply and write again. And so it continues. This slow exchange, back and forth across paper, because sound no longer travels between you. You have learned to read their expressions instead, the way their eyes move when they write something they think will displease you, the hesitation before they turn the book toward you, the quickness with which they leave after certain conversations. You know what they are thinking, even when they do not write it. The page shows only half of what passes between you. But tonight, there has been no one. The topmost notebook has remained open at the same page since afternoon, since the last visitor left, his question answered, his business concluded. No one has come since. The lamp has burned lower and no one has knocked, no footsteps have sounded on the stairs outside. The notebooks sit undisturbed, waiting for words that have not come. You look at the blank pages, the ones that wait below your last reply. They are smooth, untouched, the paper clean and pale. No marks, no questions, no careful script asking about concerts or commissions or the health of mutual acquaintances. Just emptiness. The page offers nothing, requires nothing. You feel the absence, not sharply, not with pain, but as a simple fact. It is deep night, and no one is here. You are alone with the manuscript and the piano and the books that hold only old conversations. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, there is no need for these books tonight. The conversation you are having requires no pen, no page, no exchange. It happens between your mind and the keys, between the sound you imagine and the notes you write. It is complete without an audience, without a question to answer, without anyone waiting to read your reply. You turn your eyes back to the manuscript. The staff lines are clear, the measure is waiting. The notebooks remain where they are, stacked and silent, the open page showing the last trace of the world that speaks in words. You do not close the book. You simply let it stay there, open and unfinished, while you return to the only thing that does not require translation. Your hand reaches for the pen. The nib is still wet. The next measure is empty. You lean forward, the notebooks fade from your awareness, receding into the periphery where objects go when they are no longer needed. The lamp burns low. Your pen touches paper. The conversation continues. You close your eyes. The lids fall heavily. Your face still angled toward the manuscript, but no longer reading it. Your hands lift from the edge of the piano's frame and move forward slowly until your fingers find the keys. They settle into position without needing to see. The placement is old knowledge, older than the silence, built into the muscles and tendons across years of practice when sound was still something that travelled through air. Your right hand spans an octave, the thumb on C, the fifth finger resting lightly on the C above. Your left hand sits lower, anchoring the bass. The keys are smooth under your fingertips, cool ivory worn, slightly concave, where your hands have returned 10,000 times. You do not press down yet. You hold the shape, the readiness. Then your hands move, the right descending in a passage you wrote earlier tonight, the one that begins the second movement. Your fingers strike the keys in the rhythm you have chosen, fast, steady, a pattern that repeats and shifts. You feel the resistance of each key, the small mechanical click as the hammer releases inside the body of the piano. The vibration travels up through the wood, but you do not hear it. What you hear is the sound as you remember it, as it lives in your mind, the bright clarity of the upper register, each note distinct, the melody threading through itself in a way that would be impossible for one hand if the tempo were not exactly what you have written. You hear it perfectly. The line unfolds with the precision you imagined when you put the ink on the page. No hesitation, no blur, no softness where there should be edge. The sound in your skull is cleaner than anything the piano could produce, cleaner than any instrument. It does not decay, does not resonate into the next note unless you intend it to. It simply is, whole and clear, the way you have constructed it. Your left hand joins a low C that you strike firmly, letting the key drop all the way down. You feel the impact in your wrist, the slight shudder that moves through the frame of the piano. And in your mind the bass note blooms deep and full, the sound you have heard 1,000 times before the silence came. Not the memory of one specific C, but the accumulation of all of them. Every low note you ever played in every room, every piano, every concert hall. They are all present in this single stroke. The resonance spreads wide, a foundation beneath the melody, and you hear it exactly as it should be. Your hands continue, the right hand climbing now, the left holding the bass line steady. The two lines move independently as you have written them, each voice clear and separate but woven together. You do not think about the mechanics. Your fingers know where to go. They have played these shapes before in other pieces, other keys, other years. What is new is the way the lines combine, the density of it, the refusal to simplify. You have not made this easier for the player. You have made it as complex as the sound in your mind, and the sound in your mind is vast. Beneath the two hands, you hear the orchestra you imagine. Not literally, not as if they were in the room, but as a presence. The strings that would double this line if this were a concerto. The winds that would answer in the rests. The timpani that would echo the bass. You are writing for piano alone, but the music swells larger. It contains all the instruments you are not writing for. They exist in the space around the notes, implied, remembered, built from years of hearing orchestras breathe together. You have conducted enough, listened enough, written enough to know exactly what would be there if you chose to put it there, but you have not. You have left it in the realm of implication, and that is where it belongs. The piano is enough. Your hands are enough. The sound in your mind is enough. The passage reaches a climax, a chord in both hands struck together, a hard sonority, all the fingers down at once. You feel the force of it travel through your arms into your shoulders. The keys resist and then yield. The hammering inside the instrument is violent, mechanical, a small catastrophe of wood and wire. But what you hear is triumph. The chord rings in your skull, enormous, all its overtones present, the way it would fill a concert hall if anyone were listening. But no one is listening. There is only you and the sound. that exists in the space between intention and memory. You open your eyes slowly. Your hands are still on the keys, the chord held down. The room is exactly as it was. The lamp burning low, the manuscript waiting, the apartment cold and cluttered and silent. But the music was there, vivid, complete, more real than the air. The cold reaches you first at the back of your neck, a thin line of air moving across the skin just below your hairline where the collar of your dressing gown has fallen open. You had forgotten the window. You opened it hours ago, perhaps 3, perhaps 4, when the smell of old coffee and lamp oil became too thick to bear. You stood and crossed the room and worked the latch until the casement swung inward, just a hand's width, enough to let the winter in without extinguishing the lamp. And then you returned to the piano and forgot. But the cold has not forgotten you. It moves through the room now, a steady current that flows from the window across the floor and finds the warmth rising from the oil lamp on the piano's lid. Where the two meet, the air trembles. You feel it on the left side of your face, the cheek that faces the lamp. The skin there is warm, almost hot, the heat radiating in a small sphere that does not extend far but is intense within its boundary. Your right cheek, the one turned slightly toward the window, feels nothing, or rather it feels the absence of warmth, which is its own sensation. The contrast is sharp enough that you become aware of the exact midpoint, the line down the center of your face where warm air and cold air press against each other, and neither wins. You do not move. Your hands are still resting on the keys from the passage you just played, the fingers curved, the weight of your arms suspended in the position they found without thought, but your body is beginning to speak. The cold current finds the back of your neck again, slides down beneath the collar of the dressing gown, touches the top of your spine. The vertebrae there feel it, the bones closer to the surface than anywhere else on your back. The cold is not painful, but it is insistent. It does not ask for attention, it simply takes it. You feel the muscles along your shoulders begin to respond, not tensing, not pulling tight, but becoming aware. They have been holding you upright for hours, supporting the angle of your torso as you lean slightly forward over the keyboard, and now they are tired. The cold makes the tiredness visible. You notice the dull ache that has been growing in the space between your shoulder blades, a heaviness that sits just beneath the surface of the skin. Your neck aches too, a deeper soreness in the muscles that run from the base of your skull down into your shoulders. You have been holding your head in the same position, tilted slightly downward to see the keys, the manuscript, the pencil marks you made earlier. The weight of your skull has been pulling on those muscles all night, and they are beginning to protest. The lamp's warmth touches your left hand now. You feel it most clearly on the knuckles, the thin skin stretched over the bone. The heat does not penetrate deeply, but it softens the surface, a small kindness against the cold that fills the rest of the room. Your right hand, farther from the lamp, feels cooler. The fingers are stiff, not frozen, but less fluid than they were an hour ago. You flex them slightly, still touching the keys, and feel the joints resist before they move. The cold has crept into the small spaces, the hinges of your body. The draft moves again, stronger this time. It lifts a corner of the manuscript page on the music stand, the paper curling upward for a moment before falling back. You hear nothing, of course, but you see the movement, the way the candlelight flickers across the page as the air disturbs it, and you feel the cold more sharply now, a breath of winter that touches your temple, your ear, the side of your jaw. It carries with it the faint scent of snow, not fresh snow, but old snow, the kind that has been sitting on rooftops and in gutters for days, compacted and grey. Vienna is sleeping under it. The streets are empty, the windows dark, the whole city buried in silence, and you are here, in this room, in this cold, in this body that is beginning to remind you it has limits. The warmth of the lamp pulls at you. You want to lean closer to it, to let the heat touch more of your face, your hands, your chest, but you do not move, not yet. You sit in the space between warm and cold, between the music in your mind and the silence in your ears, between the night that is passing and the work that is not yet finished. The draft moves again. Your neck feels it, your shoulders feel it. The lamp burns. The keys wait under your hands. You reach for the cup without looking. Your hand knows where it is, has known for hours, the muscle memory of a gesture repeated so many times tonight that it has become automatic. Your fingers find the handle, the ceramic cool against your skin, cooler than you expected. You lift it, the weight wrong immediately. Too light. The cup rises toward your mouth, and you already know it is empty, but the motion continues anyway, the body following the pattern it has learned. The rim touches your lower lip. You tilt the cup. Nothing comes. You hold it there for a moment, the porcelain pressed against your mouth, and you taste it anyway. The phantom bitterness on your tongue, the memory of coffee that is so strong it feels real. The taste is sharp, acrid, the way it always is when the grounds have steeped too long and the liquid has cooled and thickened into something that no longer resembles what you poured hours ago. You swallow against the dryness in your mouth and the bitterness intensifies. It is not the coffee itself, but the residue it left behind, the coating on your teeth, the back of your throat. You lower the cup and look into it. The lamplight catches the inside. The bottom is stained dark brown, almost black in the center, where the liquid pooled and evaporated. A ring marks the waterline, a perfect circle of sediment that has dried and hardened. You tilt the cup slightly and see the way the residue has cracked as it dried, a web of fine lines radiating from the center, like the glaze on old pottery. The smell rises from it, faint but distinct. Old grounds, stale and cold, the scent of something that was once hot and vital, and is now inert. It is not unpleasant exactly, but it is tired. It smells like the hours that have passed. You bring the cup closer to your face without thinking and breathe in. The bitterness reaches your nose, dry and dusty, and beneath it, something else. The faint sweetness of burnt sugar, the ghost of whatever you stirred into the coffee when you first poured it. How long ago was that? You do not know. The night has no shape anymore, no sequence of hours you can name. There was a time when the coffee was hot and you drank it, and it helped. And then there was a time when it was warm and you drank it because it was there, and then it was cold and you stopped tasting it but drank it anyway, and now it is gone. The cup in your hand is evidence of time passing, but it tells you nothing about how much. You set it down. Not on the table where the lamp burns. There is no room there among the manuscript pages and the pencils and the open conversation book with its scrawled questions you have not yet answered. You set it on the floor beside the piano's leg. The ceramic makes no sound as it touches the wood. You see it settle into place, the handle turned outward, the stained interior facing up. You do not think about refilling it. The kitchen is in the next room. The stove is cold. The coffee would take time to make, time to boil the water, time to wait while it steeps. And you do not have that time, or you do not want to spend it, or the thought of standing and walking away from the piano feels impossible right now. The work is here. The music is here. The adagio is beginning to take shape in your mind, the long, slow movement that will sit at the heart of this sonata, like a cathedral nave, solemn and vast. You can feel it forming, the voice that will carry it, the harmonic progressions that will support it. It is not written yet, but it is there, waiting, and the coffee is not. The coffee is gone. The cup is empty. You leave it where it is. Your hand returns to the keyboard. Your fingers find their position. The bitterness is still on your tongue, but it is fading. You do not need it. You do not need anything except the keys and the page and the pencil and the music that exists only in the silence you carry. The room is cold. The lamp burns. The cup sits on the floor forgotten. And you return to the work. Your hands move. The piano waits. The night continues. You turn to a fresh page. The manuscript paper is thick beneath your fingertips, heavier than the sheets you have been working on, pulled from a different stack, and you feel the texture as you smooth it flat on the music stand. The surface has a slight grain, a tooth that catches the light differently than the pages before it. You position it carefully, centering it, and your hands linger at the edges for a moment, holding it in place as if it might slip away. The paper is cool. You notice this. Your fingers are warm from the work, from the friction of the pencil, from resting on the keys, and the contrast is sharp. The coolness travels up through your palms, and you feel your awareness narrow, focusing down into this single rectangle of paper, this space that is about to hold something new. The adagio. The word surfaces in your mind without sound, only the shape of it, the meaning, the slow movement, the breath at the center of the sonata. You have known it was coming, have felt it approaching for hours, but now it is here. Now it is time, and you feel your body adjust. Your breathing slows. You were not aware it had quickened, but now you feel it lengthen. The inhale deeper, the exhale slower, as if your lungs are already learning the tempo of what you are about to write. You reach for the pencil. Not the one you have been using. That one is too dull now, the lead worn to a nub from the scherzos' frantic passages. You need something sharper for this, something that will let you draw the notes with precision, with the care this movement requires. Your hand moves across the table without your eyes following. You know where the pencils are, have touched them so many times tonight. They have become landmarks, fixed points in the geography of this room. Your fingers brush past one, then another, testing the tips, and you find the one you want. The lead is sharp, freshly cut, and you bring it to the page. The first notes do not come immediately. You hold the pencil poised above the staff, the tip a hair's breadth from the paper, and you wait. The adagio is there in your mind, but it is not yet clear, not yet focused. It is like something seen through fog, shapes moving, but not yet distinct. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm and reddish from the lamplight filtering through. You see notes there, not written notes, but the idea of notes, clusters of them, dense harmonies that rise and suspend and do not resolve, not yet, not for a long time, and between the clusters, silence. Not empty silence, but weighted silence, silence that has mass and duration. The music of the adagio is as much in what does not sound as in what does. You feel this in your chest, in the way your ribs expand and hold. You open your eyes. The page is waiting. You lower the pencil and begin. The first cluster emerges, 6 notes, 8th notes piled into a chord that your hand draws with care. Each note head a small dark circle, the stems aligned, the beam connecting them steady. You press firmly and the pencil makes a soft, scratching sound you cannot hear, but feel through your fingers, through the wood, a vibration so faint it is almost nothing, but it is there. The ink from the graphite pools briefly where you have pressed hardest, a tiny bloom of darkness, before it settles into the grain of the paper. You lift the pencil and look at what you have written. The cluster sits alone on the first measure, occupying only the first beat, and the rest of the measure is empty. 3 beats of silence. You count them in your mind, feel their weight, and you know this is right. The adagio will breathe. It will not rush. Each phrase will unfold in its own time, and the listener will have to wait, will have to sit inside the silence and let it do its work. You move to the second measure. Another cluster, different voicing, the notes rearranged so the harmony shifts, opens slightly, a door swinging on its hinge. Again, you draw carefully, the pencil moving in small, controlled motions. Your wrist is steady, but your fingers flex, adjusting pressure, and you feel the muscles in your hand working, the tendons moving under the skin. Your spine curves as you lean closer to the page. You are aware of this, the way your back rounds, the way your shoulders come forward, your head lowering until you are only inches from the manuscript. The lamplight is warmer here, brighter, and you see every detail. The grain of the paper, the slight shadow each note casts from the raised graphite, the way the staff lines are not perfectly straight, but waver slightly, hand drawn by the printer. You breathe, and your breath disturbs nothing. The air in the room is still. You write the next cluster and the next, each one separated by silence, by empty beats that you do not fill. Your hand moves steadily from left to right across the page, the motion deliberate, almost ceremonial. This is not the wild writing of the scherzo, the notes tumbling over each other in your haste to capture them. This is slower, more considered. Each mark is a small decision, a small commitment. You pause between measures, and your hand rests on the page, the heel of your palm against the paper, and you feel the coolness again, still there, as if the paper is drawing heat from your skin. You lift your hand and see the faint impression it has left, the warmth of your palm visible for a moment as condensation before it fades. You continue. The phrases begin to link, to form a progression, and you feel the adagio taking shape, not in sound, but in structure, in the architecture of silence and tone. Your breathing has settled into the rhythm of it. Inhale on the silence, exhale on the clusters. Your body is writing with you, your lungs keeping time. The pencil moves. The page fills slowly. The night deepens around you, but you do not notice. You are inside the adagio now, inside its slow unfolding, and there is nothing else. The metronome sits at the edge of the piano, just beyond the manuscript paper, in the space where the polished wood catches the lamplight and holds it. You have not touched it in hours, perhaps longer. The memory of when you last wound it is distant, lost somewhere in the earlier movements, back when you were still testing tempi, still searching for the pulse of the opening. Now it sits motionless, its pendulum frozen in the down position, a thin brass rod pointing toward the bass like a finger pressed to lips. You glance at it without turning your head fully, your eyes sliding to the right while your body remains oriented toward the manuscript. The metronome's casing is brass, tarnished in places where your fingers have gripped it, darkened by oil from your skin, and the sections that catch the light are warm gold, almost amber in this low glow. You see the numbers etched along the scale running from bottom to top, each one a promise of precision of external order. 40, 60, 80, 120. The markings are fine, cut into the metal with a sharp tool, and they catch tiny shadows in their grooves. You used to rely on those numbers, used to set the weight carefully at the marking that matched what you heard, what you felt the music needed. You would wind the spring and watch the pendulum swing its steady click, a guide, a confirmation that your inner sense of time aligned with something measurable, something outside yourself. But that was before the silence became absolute, before even the lowest vibrations faded into memory. Now the metronome is an object you cannot verify, a device whose function you must take on faith. You could wind it now, could set it swinging, and you would see the pendulum move, but you would not hear its divisions of time, would not know if the mechanism still works or if the spring has weakened, if the tempo it marks is true or drifting. The thought surfaces, and you let it pass. You do not reach for it. Your hands remain where they are, one holding the pencil above the manuscript, the other resting lightly on the edge of the piano's frame. The metronome stays where it is, gathering dust. You notice this now, the fine layer of dust that has settled at its base, a soft grey line where the brass meets the wood, and you see a few particles on the casing itself, barely visible, caught in the valleys of the tarnish. The apartment is full of dust. It sifts down from the ceiling, rises from the floorboards, settles on every surface, and you have stopped trying to clear it. There are more important things. The dust does not interfere with the work. It only marks time in its own way, showing what has been still and what has been touched. The metronome has been still. You see this in the undisturbed layer, the way the dust forms a perfect boundary. Your manuscripts, by contrast, are clean where your hands have moved them, smudged where your palms have rested. The metronome belongs to a different order of things now, to the world of external measures, of shared time, of the clock and the calendar, and you have moved beyond that. The tempo you need lives in your body. You feel it in the way your heart beats, slower now than it was in your youth, a steadier pulse, and you feel it in your breathing, in the length of your stride when you pace the room, in the speed at which your hand moves across the page when the music is flowing. The metronome cannot tell you what you already know, cannot feel the slight hesitation before a resolution, the elastic stretch of a phrase that needs more space, the compression of notes that tumble over each other by design. You write with your body's clock, with a tempo that shifts and breathes and responds to the music as it unfolds, and no mechanism can capture that. The pendulum remains still. You turn back to the manuscript fully now, your gaze leaving the metronome, and you feel no loss. The adagio does not need external measurement. It will be as slow as it needs to be, as slow as the silence demands. You trust this. Your hand lowers to the page and the pencil touches paper again, the tip finding the next measure, and you draw another cluster of notes, your fingers moving at their own pace, guided by the pulse you carry inside. The metronome sits in its dust, and you let it. It has done its work in another time, when your ears could confirm what it promised. Now you have only your body, your memory, your breath, and that is enough. The music continues. The lamplight holds steady. The night is deep and long, and you are inside it, inside the adagio's slow unfolding, and the metronome's silence is no different from any other silence. No more and no less. You write. You rest your hands in your lap and feel the ache in your knuckles, the stiffness settling into your fingers. The transition is slow, the movement from keyboard to thigh gradual, as though your arms are lowering through water. Your palms come to rest on the rough wool of your dressing gown, the fabric cool against skin that has been hovering over the keys, over the manuscript, holding tension for hours. The warmth drains from your palms almost immediately, pulled away by the wool, and you feel the contrast, the ghost of heat that was there a moment ago, and the cooler reality that replaces it. Your hands are heavy, heavier than they should be, as though they have been filling with sand throughout the night, grain by grain, and now the weight is undeniable. You flex your fingers slightly, testing the joints, and the movement is small, barely visible, just enough to feel where the stiffness has taken hold. The base of your thumbs throbs, a dull pulse that matches no rhythm you have written, slower than the adagio, deeper. It is the pulse of use, of hours spent gripping the pencil, pressing it into paper, holding it suspended, while your mind searches for the next interval. Your knuckles are tight, the skin stretched over bone, and when you flex again, you feel the resistance, the way the joints do not want to bend fully, do not want to release the shape they have been holding. You let your hands rest without forcing them, let them settle into the lap, into the rough texture of the wool, and you become aware of the hour not by looking at the window, not by counting the measures you have written, but by this, by the accumulation of small fatigues, the body's honest accounting of what has been spent. Your forearms are heavy too, dense, as though the muscles have contracted and forgotten how to soften. You feel the weight running from elbow to wrist, a heaviness that sinks down through your lap toward the floor, pulling at your shoulders, at the base of your neck. You sit very still and let the sensation spread. Let yourself notice it fully. The throb at the base of your thumbs continues, steady, insistent. It is not pain exactly, not sharp or alarming, but presence, the assertion of flesh and bone, the reminder that you are contained in this body, that the music you hear inside your skull must pass through these hands to reach the page. You turn your hands slightly, palms up now, and look at them in the low lamplight. The lines are deep, etched into the skin, darker grooves that catch shadow. Your fingers are ink-stained, the tips blackened from the pencil, from handling manuscript paper that smudges easily, and there are small indentations where the pencil has pressed into the side of your middle finger, faint ridges in the flesh that will fade by morning. but are visible now. Your nails are uneven, trimmed without care, and there is a small tear in the skin near your left thumbnail, a place where you picked at a hangnail days ago, and it has not yet healed. You see all of this with a kind of detachment, as though these are the hands of someone else, a stranger whose fatigue you observe without judgment. The warmth is nearly gone now. Only a faint residual heat remains at the center of each palm, a small core that the wool has not yet absorbed. You close your fingers slowly, curling them into loose fists, and feel the stiffness resist, the joints reluctant. You do not force them. You let them curl as much as they will and no further, and you hold them there, resting in your lap, two closed shapes against the dark wool. Your wrists ache too, a deeper ache than the thumbs, something in the tendons, the small bones that hold everything together. You have been writing for hours, longer than hours. The night has stretched, and you have stretched with it, and now the body asks for acknowledgement, asks to be noticed. You breathe in slowly and feel the air move through your chest, feel the expansion and release, and with the exhale some of the tension in your forearms softens, just slightly, just enough to notice. You do not lift your hands again yet. You let them rest, let the weight settle fully, let the warmth fade completely until your palms are the same temperature as the room, as the wool, as the night air that presses against the windows. The throb at the base of your thumbs persists, patient, unhurried. You sit with it, your eyes half closed, your body still, and the fatigue becomes part of the silence, another layer, another texture. The music waits, the manuscript waits. Your hands rest in your lap, and you let the moment be what it is. A pause, a reckoning, the body's quiet insistence that time is passing, that the night is deep, that you have been working, and the work shows in your flesh. You will return to the piano soon, but not yet, not quite yet. The lamp flickers, a brief tremor in the flame, so slight you might not have noticed if you were not sitting this still, this watchful in the aftermath of your hands settling. The light contracts, just a degree, the amber glow pulling inward as though drawing breath, and the shadows on the far wall lengthen by an increment so small it registers as feeling rather than sight. You do not turn your head toward the lamp, but you sense the change, the way the room has shifted, the way the periphery has darkened, while the manuscript before you remains visible, still legible, though softer now at its edges. The flame steadies again, holds, burns with the same low constancy it has maintained for hours, but you know what the flicker meant. The oil is thinning, the reservoir nearly empty, the wick drawing from what little remains. You could rise, you could walk the 4 steps to the shelf where the oil bottle sits, uncork it, refill the lamp, restore the light to its earlier brightness, but you do not move. Your hands remain in your lap, your body remains seated, and the thought of rising feels distant, unnecessary, a task for a different hour. The light is enough, more than enough, for what remains. The manuscript lies open on the piano's music stand, the pages covered in your notation, the staves dense with notes that climb and descend, that cluster and separate, that form patterns you hear with perfect clarity inside the silence of your skull. The ink is black against the cream-coloured paper, each line drawn with care despite the speed of your hand, despite the hours. You see the final measures of the phrase you have just completed, the notes arranged in their ascending sequence, and below them, the empty staves waiting, 5 lines each, patient, ready. The lamplight falls across the paper at an angle, illuminating the top 2/3 while the bottom edge rests in softer shadow. The flame flickers again, another brief convulsion, and this time the shadow of the music stand shifts slightly against the wall behind the piano, a dark vertical line that stretches and contracts as the light wavers. You watch without watching, your eyes resting on the manuscript but your attention diffused, aware of the room as a whole. The way the amber glow holds the center while the corners recede into darkness. The lamp sits on the closed lid of the piano. To your left, a brass vessel with a glass chimney, the flame visible through the smudged glass as a small tongue of yellow-orange light, steady now but smaller than it was when you lit it hours ago. The oil inside is nearly transparent, a thin layer at the bottom of the reservoir, catching the light and throwing it back in miniature reflections. You see this without turning your head, the periphery of your vision holding the lamp in its frame. The wick is blackened at its tip, the carbon build-up visible even through the glass, and the flame consumes it slowly, incrementally, pulling fuel from the oil below and transforming it into light and heat, and the faint smell of burning that mingles with the coffee and wax and old paper. The room is warm near the lamp, cooler where you sit, and coolest at the edges where the darkness gathers. The manuscript glows, not with its own light, but with the light that falls upon it, the amber hue softening the cream paper to something warmer, almost golden. The ink remains black, stark, uncompromising, but the paper itself seems gentler now, less rigid, as though the dimming light is returning it to something older, something more forgiving. You see the margin notes you have written in pencil, the reminders to yourself, the alternate voicings, the fingerings you will never use because you will never perform this piece, because your hands will never move across a keyboard in public again, because the deafness has taken that from you and you have accepted the taking. The pencil marks are faint, nearly invisible in the reduced light, ghosts of thought. You do not strain to read them. You know what they say. The flame flickers a third time, longer now, the light dipping and recovering, and the shadows on the wall perform a slow dance, elongating and contracting, and you feel the room breathe. You let the lamp burn as it will. You let the oil descend toward empty. You let the light grow softer, more intimate, drawing the world inward until there is only this: the manuscript, the piano, the silence, the flame. You rest in the diminishment, in the gradual narrowing, and it feels correct, proper, as though the light itself is following the arc of the work, descending as the music descends toward its resting place, toward the final phrase that waits in the empty staves. Your hands remain in your lap. Your eyes remain on the manuscript. The flame burns low and you do not refill it. You let the night deepen. You let the light contract. You sit in the amber glow and wait for what comes next. You place the pen to paper. The nib touches the uppermost staff and you feel the slight resistance, the grain of the manuscript sheet against the metal tip, textured, fibrous, a surface that has already absorbed hours of ink and still accepts more. Your hand moves without hesitation, drawing the final note of the phrase, a whole note that sits on the line, round and complete, its hollow center encircled by the careful curve of your pen. The ink flows dark and wet, pooling slightly at the thickest part of the note head before your hand lifts and the line breaks. You feel the release in your fingers, the momentary suspension as the pen hovers a fraction above the page, no longer making contact, but not yet withdrawn. The note glistens, the ink still liquid, catching the amber lamplight and reflecting it back as a tiny point of brightness against the black. You watch it begin to dry, the wet sheen fading at the edges first, the surface tension breaking down, the liquid becoming permanent. Your wrist rests against the lower edge of the manuscript, your skin touching paper, and you feel the slight texture there too, the deckled edge rough against the thin skin on the inside of your wrist. The paper is cool, cooler than your skin, and the contrast registers as a small relief, a point of contact that grounds you in the physical world after the hours of navigating the invisible architecture inside your skull. You set the pen down. Not on the piano lid where it might roll, but on the small wooden tray to your right, the one you keep for this purpose, stained with old ink and spotted with wax. The pen settles into the groove it has worn over months, fitting there as though the wood has memorized its shape. Your hand releases it, fingers uncurling slowly, the tendons in your palm relaxing after the sustained grip, and you feel the faint ache that lives in the base of your thumb, the place where the pen presses hardest, a dull throb that you have carried all night, and now, released from purpose, announces itself more clearly. You flex your fingers once, a slow opening and closing, knuckles straightening, and the joints make no sound that you can hear, but you feel the small articulations, the bones moving in their casings, the slight catch in the middle knuckle of your index finger that has been there for years. Your hand comes to rest in your lap, joins the other hand there, both palms turned upward now, open, empty. The manuscript remains on the music stand before you, the final phrase complete, the ink drying, the notes arranged in their ascending line, and then the whole note at the summit, the phrase's resting place, the point where the melody resolves and pauses. You see it whole, the entire phrase from the first note you wrote an hour ago to this final mark, and it exists now, independent of you, fixed on the page, no longer fluid. Tomorrow you will revise it. You know this already. Know that the second note should perhaps be a half step lower, that the rhythm in the third measure is not quite what you heard, that the whole construction will need adjustment, but for now, tonight, in this moment, it is complete. The phrase is finished, and you have released it. Your hands rest in your lap, and you feel the tremor, not constant, but intermittent, a slight shaking that begins in your right hand, and then stills, and then returns. It has been with you for weeks, this tremor, worsening when you are tired, and you are tired now, deeply so. The exhaustion settling into your shoulders and neck and lower back, where you have held yourself upright for too many hours. You let your spine curve, just slightly, just enough to ease the tension, and you lean back in the chair, the wooden backrest meeting your shoulder blades. The chair creaks. You do not hear it, but you feel it through your body. The vibration traveling up from the legs through the seat and into your spine. You rest there, no longer writing, no longer composing, no longer reaching toward the music that has filled your skull all night. You are simply present, in the room, in the chair, in the aftermath. The manuscript glows in the lamplight before you, the ink drying to permanence, the final phrase complete, and your hands lie still in your lap, empty, trembling slightly, released. You close the lid of the piano, not with force, but with a slow, deliberate pressure, your palms flat against the wood, fingers spread, and you feel the weight of the fallboard as it descends, the hinges taking the load, the mechanism inside shifting as the keyboard disappears beneath the surface. The wood meets wood with a soft, conclusive sound you cannot hear, but feel as a vibration that travels up through your wrists and into your forearms, a gentle thud that marks the end. Your hands remain there, resting on the closed lid, palms down, the wood smooth and cool beneath your skin, polished by years of use, the surface marked with small imperfections you know by touch. A shallow scratch near the center, a slight depression where the grain has compressed. You do not lift your hands, not yet. They stay where they are, spread wide, claiming the space, and you feel the stillness in them now, the absence of motion after so many hours of movement. The tremor has quieted, or perhaps you have simply stopped noticing it, your attention drawn instead to the solid, unmoving surface beneath your palms. The piano, silent now, closed, holding inside it all the vibrations you coaxed from it tonight, the wooden frame and iron strings, and felt hammers resting in darkness. You breathe. A slow, deep inhalation that fills your chest and presses your ribs outward against the heavy fabric of your dressing gown, the worn wool rough against your skin, and you feel the expansion, the way your lungs take up space inside your torso, pushing against the diaphragm, lifting your shoulders slightly. You hold the breath, not deliberately, but because the exhale has not yet come, and in that suspension you feel your heartbeat, steady and measured, pulsing at your temple where the skin is thin and the artery runs close to the surface. You release the air slowly through slightly parted lips, and your chest settles, your shoulders drop, the tension in your upper back easing as gravity pulls you downward into the chair. Your weight rests fully on the seat now, no longer held partially by muscle and will, but surrendered completely to the wood beneath you, your thighs heavy, your pelvis sinking into the slight hollow. The chair has taken over years of sitting. You feel the pressure points, the bones of your sit bones against the hard surface, the way your spine curves naturally now, no longer held upright, the vertebrae stacking loosely, each one resting on the one below. Your hands slide from the piano lid, not lifted, but dragged slowly backward, fingertips trailing across the wood until they reach the edge and fall into your lap, joining each other there, one palm cradling the other. You feel the warmth where they meet, your own heat, the blood moving beneath the skin, the slight moisture in the creases of your palms. Your eyes close, not a decision, but an inevitability. The lid's heavy, descending slowly until the room disappears and you are enclosed in the darkness behind your eyelids. A space that is neither sight nor blindness, but simply the absence of the need to see. The lamplight is still there. You sense it as a warm pressure against your closed lids, a reddish glow that pulses faintly with your heartbeat, but it does not ask you to look. You remain inside your body, inside the quiet architecture you have built tonight. The sonata existing now not on the page behind you, but in the space you carry, the lattice of intervals and phrases and harmonic scaffolding that needs no sound to be whole. Your breath slows, each inhalation longer than the last, each exhale deeper, and you feel the rhythm of it, the way your body knows how to do this without thought, the ancient autonomic pulse that continues regardless of what you compose or do not compose, what you hear or do not hear. The silence around you is not empty. It is dense, textured, full of everything you have written and everything you have imagined, and everything that will remain when the lamp burns out and the night ends and Vienna wakes. You sit, hands in your lap, spine curved, head bowing forward slowly, the weight of your skull too much now to hold upright, and you rest inside the silence that contains everything.